Mr. Secretary, since the American retaliatory response in Iraq and Syria began on Friday, U.S. and coalition forces have been attacked at least twice, indicating deterrence is not yet established. Do you have any indication to date that Tehran will stop providing weapons to its proxies or otherwise work to constrain their behavior? And did you hear any support on this trip from your Arab partners to continue these strikes? On normalization efforts, do you believe that you now have with the Saudis something in hand that will change Prime Minister Netanyahu's declared opposition to an eventual Palestinian state? Or does a broader regional agreement require different leadership in Israel? And Mr. Prime Minister, the U.S. has said that last week's strikes in Iraq and Syria are the beginning and not the end of its response. You called this earlier an unfortunate expansion. Do you view that the actions that the U.S. is now taking as escalatory? And if I may follow up on my colleague on the hostage deal, you mentioned positive comments from Hamas. There have been consistent reports of divisions within the group. Are you confident that this response that you've gotten is from a unified consensus? Thank you.
Olivia, thank you. First, and I don't want to speak for colleagues or other countries, but I think it's fair to say that all of our partners very much oppose and reject the attacks that have been perpetrated by a variety of groups, often directed at us, but that affect everyone's interests. The Red Sea, the Houthi attacks on shipping there affect the interests of virtually everyone in the world, given the implications that it has for shipping that's so important to countries around the world, with 15% of global traffic going through the Red Sea. And we've already seen the adjustments that shipping countries have had to make in ways that's imposing added costs on consumers and countries around the world. So that, the attacks on our personnel, including the attack that killed 3 Americans in Jordan, I've heard nothing but condemnation of those attacks, opposition to them, and a determination that one way or another they cease. We've been, as I said, very clear from day one that anyone trying to use the conflict in Gaza as an excuse to expand the conflict, to attack our personnel, to attack shipping, to engage in any form of escalation that spreads the conflict, we would strong-stanley against that. And that's exactly what we're doing. We have been very clear that we don't want the conflict to escalate. We'll do everything we can to prevent that, but at the same time, we will defend our personnel anywhere and everywhere that they're under threat. We'll see the results, as you've heard clearly from Secretary Austin, as well as from the President. The response that we've undertaken over the last few days is going to continue, and it's very important that not only do those engaged in these attacks get the message, but that they act on it by ceasing the attacks against our people and personnel. And we will do what's necessary until that happens. Second part of your question. In Saudi Arabia, I had the opportunity to discuss again with Prince Mohammed bin Salman the way forward really for the region as a whole. And I said a few minutes ago how there is an incredibly powerful path that lies before us. But it's going to require everyone involved to make hard decisions. None of this comes easy. But with regard specifically to normalization, the Crown Prince reiterated Saudi Arabia's strong interest in pursuing that. But he also made clear what he had said to me before, which is that in order to do that, two things are required. An end to the conflict in Gaza and a clear, credible, time-bound path to the establishment of a Palestinian state. So, we know the immense benefits that would come for everyone concerned with Israel's further integration into the region, starting with the benefits for Israel. That's something that Israelis will have to decide for themselves. And again, all of this requires difficult, hard decisions, made all the more challenging given the focus on the conflict in Gaza. But these are questions that fundamentally our partners will have to answer for themselves, answer for everyone else. We can't do that for them. All we can do is keep our focus on what we strongly believe is the best answer for the long-term security, the long-term peace for Israel, for the region, as well as for the Palestinian people. And if we're able to move down that pathway, it also does something else. It isolates those who reject it, starting with Iran. And in that sense, in terms of dealing with some of the most profound security challenges that Israel has faced for years, it will be in a much stronger position as part of an integrated region to deal with them. But again, these are decisions that will have to be made. None of them are easy, and we'll continue the effort to prepare all the diplomatic steps necessary to be able to move down that path if that's the path that everyone chooses.
Well, regarding the U.S. response, first of all, as I have expressed in many occasions, Qatar reject and condemn any attack that infringe other countries' sovereignty or leading to killing citizens, and of course they are the U.S. citizens, but also it's part of their mission within the coalition, which is Qatar member in. And of course, we totally understand that each country has the right to protect its sovereignty and its own citizen with the measures they are seeing according to international law. Yet our advice to all the parties all the time that we should, of course, take in consideration what's happening in the region and try to avoid any escalatory measure with all our understanding to the context of this attack. Regarding your second question about Hamas and the division between both the inside and the outside, our dealing in its entirety for all over the last years has been with the political office, and this channel that we are using has been always giving us the responses that represent both, and that's what we have seen in the first pause, and hopefully also with the current responses that we are having that will lead to the second, hopefully, pause and exchange of hostages. I think that's the only channel that we have, and that's has been always effective for us. So we don't see, or we are not in position to examine their unity and their division. What's leading us really are the results of any agreement that we will have.